When I was doing some training in Sydney last year, I actually got some medical students to sit down and write down some of the issues that they experienced as students. It was amazing the list they came out to. In fact, it was a bit depressing, to be honest, because there were so many issues that they raised. But it's good to be aware of these and to try and develop a good response to them. So one of the issues they mentioned was leaving home and all the issues of leaving your family, of finally standing on your own terms in your faith. Now, that's not going to be everyone's experience, but it is an experience for a lot of students who have to move to the place where they're learning. The second thing is living in residence. If that is the experience that the student has, there can be parties, distractions, temptations, romance with non-Christians. There's the possibility of moral failure that needs to be addressed. And then there's the placements for students. There's a whole load of issues there. As you spread out, you lose contact with people and you find it more difficult to attend church regularly. There can be issues of vocational doubt. At different times in the whole learning experience, students can begin to wonder, did they really want to become a doctor or a dentist in the first place? Was this a dream that their family had rather than they had personally? Some people wonder if they should go into full-time Christian ministry. So there can be a whole load of issues about that, considering other careers. Then there's time stress, and this is a big one for any medical student. There's lack of time for intimacy with God. There's juggling work and study commitments that can cause all sorts of stress. There's the issue of how do you fit in church into this big mix. There can also be confronting theological issues, ethical issues, or just plain challenges to the faith, especially in the increasingly humanist and secular environments in which we find ourselves. There can be conflict over faith at uni and work. There may be a difficult lecturer who is really anti-Christian in their ideas. It may be difficult consultants, particularly if they have an anti-faith expression. It can be hard to speak up if there's a power imbalance. There can be lots of feelings of faith. This is something that every Christian goes through at different times. God might feel distant at a certain time. You might be going through times when the mentee is feeling spiritually dry. There's also an increasing exposure to alternate faiths that the medical student might not have had before. There's the challenges of other beliefs. They might encounter intellectual arguments against Christianity in a way that they've never encountered before. There can be disenchantment with church if they feel that church is not actually preparing them for all these challenges. Or it may be that they're actually challenged by some of the failings of the church. The rest of life can begin to crowd out faith. This can be because of health issues, physical or mental, or it can be family problems. And finally, there's the lure of success. There's the lure of money and influence. Maybe the student for the first time is beginning to have a lot of money. But there can also be the temptation to pride, as people see you as quite a powerful person in their lives. How do you deal with that? In terms of responding to all these issues, there are some things to remember. One of the first things is to ask lots of questions. Seek first to understand fully what the issue is before jumping in. Secondly, it's good to remember what it was like when you were a student. And in fact, some homework that you can do right now is begin to go through those issues and write down your own experience of those different issues. The third thing I want to say is pray. Pray a lot. Pray for wisdom. Pray for understanding. Pray for prompting about biblical material that you can use or different resources that you can use to address these issues. But don't feel you're alone in this. There will be people who can help you with the different issues that you come across. There are some different challenges as a mentor that you may face as you go through this process. One of the things is just being too busy. It may be something that you volunteered to do, but your life just becomes really busy. I think it's important to realise that this is something that you have agreed to. It's a commitment. You have a contract with the mentee. So it's important to make sure you set aside time, but maybe set some boundaries on that if you're beginning to struggle. Second thing is a lack of connection. You may not feel that you can actually connect with the mentee deeply. This may be something that you work through, you keep going and you see if it develops. If it doesn't develop, then don't feel that that's something that stops you in the mentoring role. It's good to contact your mentor coordinator just to ask whether maybe it'd be better if you met up with a different mentee. Sometimes there can be more serious issues that happen. Your mentee may become over-dependent on you. This can be a serious problem because it can actually really influence the relationship that you have with the mentee. It can mean that they're becoming too demanding of your time. It can actually distract the person away from God when they actually see you as the person that they're relying on and trusting in rather than God. So that's something to be particularly aware of. The mentee may not be committed to the relationship, and you may find it hard to actually build and to see growth because the mentee is not doing much. There may be a lack of trust. You just can't build the trust so that you can be vulnerable with each other. There may be boundaries of different sorts that can be crossed. It's hopefully rare in Christian situations, but sometimes there can be an attraction issue in the mentoring relationship. It's good just to be aware of those boundaries and whether they are being crossed. And sometimes you come across a mentee who's just struggling with issues that are too deep, that you feel that they need someone more than a mentor to actually assist them with. Once again, with all these issues, I want to say that doesn't have to be the end of the story. If you're finding that these are issues for you, please speak to your mentor coordinator. They can actually help you to find a way through. They can give you advice, give you access to some wisdom, especially if the mentee is struggling with some really deep issues. There are some really good resources out there, and it's really not up to you to necessarily fix or rescue them.